All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic round of Osborne Motors Endurance Challenge. Well, my round number isn't correct, as I thought I had changed it, but apparently it decided it didn't want to be changed. We are back for another exciting sprint weekend. I'm once again joined in the booth. I'm Fettuccini, once again joined in the booth by Kevin Hayes, who is back. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Feels good to be back.
Fantastic. You are very excited about these tracks. You want to talk about a little bit about them while I get my information up to date on the broadcast side?
Absolutely. They're just two old school circuits. Brands Hatch obviously been around since forever, from as far as I'm aware. And in the GT3 cars, it's just kind of that right on the edge of these medium speed. Oh, his Landon Orr goes for a bit of a spin. They're all just, every corner is just on the edge of grip of trying to be flowy, but they're still, you can overtake. The GT3 cars, to me, are the perfect balance of speed and downforce for this track. And then throw in a couple GT4 cars. Looks like we only have 3 out there so far tonight. Just throws a little bit of a curveball into it, making them really have to pick where they're going to go past those guys. Most sports the same way, kind of a little more old school, a lot of medium speed, tight corners. Where you got to be fast, you got to be precise. A lot of corners where you miss that turn in. Brands Hatch has a blind right-hander to start the lap, and then most sport has that big blind left-hander as you come over the crest. Where if you don't nail the turn in, you're way offline when you come over that crest, and you're in deep trouble. So real excited to see how the guys handle the challenges here tonight. And they're 2 tracks you can follow closely at and get a little bit of draft here and there, and it makes some really good racing within the GT3 class.
With practice just over a minute left in it, I think they've had plenty of time to get warmed up and settled in for Brands Hatch at least. I could not agree more with everything you said. They're 2, I think, very good club circuits, which I think the GT3s are just at the top end of what is fun to drive around here. I think if you go any faster, it gets kind of weird.
Yeah, the only other car, a Formula 4 is great around here, but you're exactly right. As you start to get faster, you just end up, I think even in the old school F1 cars, they're running sub 1 minute laps here. And it's just too quick. Where you don't get a chance to get into the flow, whereas the GT3s really allow you to, set up a move, make it work. If you force a guy to defend somewhere, it compromises them somewhere else, so you can kind of think your way through a move, which is always really fun to see.
Fantastic. I'm very, very stoked. Oh no, Tyler Robert goes sliding off into the grass there after getting passed by Mauricio Marquez Ramos.
And I see some gravel out on track, and I think that's going to be something that's going to cause issues at some point during this race. With how fast these corners are, if you don't have the grip you expect when you get to the apex, all of a sudden you're pushing a little bit wide and then a little bit wider. And I think you're going to see some people have to make some crazy saves tonight in order to keep the car out of the wall if they come across a piece of track where someone else has already gone off.
I would have to imagine that's going to be a thing. A lot of careful moments there as the gravel gets called for one point or another. I have to imagine it's going to be an interesting pair of corners anywhere in the back half of the track if gravel gets dragged onto the racing circuit, because you're pretty much riding on that edge of grip throughout the last 3 of the 4 corners, right?
Yeah, you're really on the edge of grip. It's that turn, really 5, 6, and from 6 all the way to 7, it's a right-hand turn, all the way down to turn 7, and you are just hanging on that left front the entire way through. So if you don't have the grip that you're expecting to have when you get through there and you push, and it's it's one of those complexes too, where if you get a little wide in 5, it compromises your run to 6, and then you're just kind of, if you get off balance all through there, it can really screw you up when you kind of lose your rhythm. So expect to see some guys kind of take a couple corners if they get off rhythm to get back into it and get back up to speed.
I'm excited to see also how GT4s play a mix into that role, because I know you're going to have to make some concessions somewhere in that lap time to get around a GT4, or as a GT4 to get a GT3 around safely without, causing you to go flying off into the grass like we saw Tyler Roberts do in practice. Oh, I was going to have us ride along board with Charles Rhodes, but he has caught that inside.
Get out of the wall.
He did. Yeah, he did. I didn't see any contact with the wall. So we'll have to see here in a moment. All these cars making their outlaps done. So, kept it out of the wall. Kevin, do you want to take us through a lap here at Brands Hatch as we dive on board?
I will. I'm actually going to ride on board with you here. And as you come up, you see what I'm talking about, that blind right-hand corner. So you're braking and you have to turn in and try to get, he's real wide through there, but you want to be all the way over to the right-hand side to open that corner up. Use as much of that curve as you'd like without touching the gravel. Uphill braking zone, so you can really dive it in late. As you come back down the hill, car gets a little light in the rear as you start to go from uphill to downhill. Another kind of sweepy left-hander, a lot of curb you can use there, but sometimes the off-track's a little bit of an interesting position there, so you guys got to be careful if you want that safety bonus tonight. Kind of a later apex left-hander, which takes you down to, I believe, the longest straightaway on the circuit. It's not really straight. As you meander your way back into the forest here, come under the bridge, downhill, and you're starting to spot your braking zone over on the left. It's just a little touch, down a gear or two. Throw the car in and use as much of the track on exit as you can. Not a lot of exit curb here, so you got to really keep within the white lines. Cut as much there as you want. It's kind of, you can be as aggressive as you can be there. Same for this corner. You're going to want to drop a couple gears, and he's a little wide there again. You want to really try to put almost half your car over that. Finally back to a left-hander after a bunch of right-handers in a row. Rhodes gets a little shaky on exit, and now we're down to the last corner here. Same thing. You're going to dive it in late. Throw the car in, and then back on the power as soon as you can. And that is a quick, about 80-second lap around here at Brands Hatch.
Man. And you said getting a little shaky there. I saw how much he was working that wheel to keep that car from spinning out. So fantastic recovery there. You can see, I think, a better line of that apex that he was looking for the first time around. Times on the board starting to roll through. Nate Sides. I was saying Nate Sides was holding the lead, but Justin Hall just currently dethroned him for that lead position with a 123.83. I think the tires are still warming up with how short this lap time is for these drivers. It usually takes about a lap to get the tires warm on most tracks. Given how short this one is, it would be a little bit more.
I really don't think the tires are ever going to be fully in their window. Probably lap 3 is going to be your best lap here, which you're not going to get. So it's going to really be all about the second lap, and probably a lot of it on the last couple corners here. As those tires finally get into their window, probably coming through turn 6 and 7, where you really start to feel that you have all the grip that you're going to have during the race. I would expect to see some of these guys run a lap time almost a second faster on their second lap compared to their first. So we'll see as those times start to come in, as guys get the tires hot and start to be able to not fight the car as much as they come through a couple corners, as Marcus Osborne goes up to P1. Albeit I think that might be temporary. There's a lot of green times on the board right now.
Dan Griffin setting about a second faster this most recent time by to put GT3 Pro back on the top step of the overall grid sorting order, I suppose. Nate Sides getting a faster lap time in as well. Justin Hall splitting the difference between him and Dan to take second place in qualifying. Patrick Cantrell getting a time on the board as well. Most of the drivers here able to get one in. I think we're still waiting on just a couple. Nicholas Maynard being one of them, as well as Mauricio Marquez Ramos. Nick Terrell, I think, is going to try to set a lap time this time by.
And I see a name on the board that we haven't seen all season. There is a Mr. John Schwartz in the lobby this evening.
Wow.
I believe season 7 and 8 champion, season 8 champion. I forget. I know he won one year.
At least
he hasn't been around much in season 11. Happy to see him back. He's about to complete his lap. Hopefully we'll give Dan Dan Griffin, he puts it P4, so behind those front engine runners up at the front, fastest mid-engine car, he's in the NSX tonight.
Oh, man.
I guess Jesse Olsen's also in the Acura. Sorry, I thought it was just Justin Hall up there. Nice to see John back, though. I mean,
Absolutely.
Commanding pole position lap from Dan Griffin. 6/10 clear of Justin Hall in P2.
It's fantastic racing from him, as well as everyone else as they get through their final laps. Landon Orr trying to get, I think, a second lap time in. Given that it's a sprint weekend, no real desire for these guys to try to maintain any sort of fuel or tire management strategies. Am I correct in that?
Oh, absolutely not. Especially not here at Brands Hatch. They're going to have plenty of fuel to run full tilt to the end. Expect to see what they're running minute 20s. We've got a 30-minute race, so expect to see 23, 24, effectively just qualifying laps out of these guys. They're going to burn every piece of rubber off these tires they can get out of them.
Oh, man. I get a feeling that'll be a fun race to experience here in just a couple minutes' time. Rest of the drivers trying to get in those final lap times. A small GT3 AM grid tonight, I feel like.
Yeah, we got a lot of the pro class out here. Not a ton of folks in the AM. Hopefully maybe we see a couple guys out at Mo Sport after this, and then only 3 GT4s. We have Roberts and Joe Evers out there. So hopefully we see all those guys just running a tight pack of 3 the whole night. It'd be fun to see them just fight it out for which podium position they're going to get, because they're all on the podium just for showing up.
They certainly are. It was similar to how it was in Watkins Glen, though it was a different set of drivers. I think Sean Roberts was the only person I've seen at both races in the past 2 weeks. As I saw, I believe, Devin Adams, as well as our new Outlander GT4 driver, whose name I'm just blanking on.
Oh my goodness! Don't put me on the spot either.
I'm scrolling through to find it. Don't worry. Jaden Rissard is the name. There
you go. Broadcasters of the year here.
Chris Kyle's running it off track, trying to get a lap time in. That'll invalidate that one. Wesley Woods, a fantastic newcomer. I think getting a lap put on the board, hopefully. One of the last drivers getting into qualifying. 2 minutes left to go. I believe he's just going to be cutting it in at the last minute.
Man, what a good paint scheme.
Right?
Kind of it's copper with the flat gunmetal. That looks great.
It is absolutely. It's very well. It's like very simple, but like in a great, well executed way.
And I can't tell what flag that is on the nose. I'm not going to guess because I don't want to make anyone mad.
Yeah, I have no clue either. I'm sure it has some great significance. We'll have to ask him at some point here in the near future.
Second he finishes this lap, I'm going to pull him in for a quick question. He's in party chat.
Oh, perfect.
Find out.
You got to know.
I mean, it looks... I've got a feeling of what state it is, but I'm not sure. Which means I'm probably very wrong.
Oh, it does not finish the lap before the end of qualifying.
Wesley Woods, welcome to the broadcast booth. I have a quick question for you. Wesley? Wesley, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
You're all good, man.
No, I'm still trying to figure everything out, dude. For some reason my audio's not working, and it's gonna end up being the reason I crash.
You're all good, brother. I had a quick question for you, before I send you down to the grid. What flag is on the hood of your car? I was looking at your livery during qualifying. Love that gunmetal with the chrome orange. It looks great. but I couldn't figure out what flag that is.
Georgia, the
It's
state.
the Georgia state flag. Okay, I was gonna say Tennessee, and see that would have made him mad, Fen. I told you, if I got it wrong,
absolutely would have.
I was gonna be in trouble.
All right.
All good. Okay, I appreciate it, Wesley. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Wesley Woods, one of our fantastic new drivers coming in this week to join the grid. Going down, we'll do a quick rundown of your. Actually, we have plenty of time. We have a whole minute's plus worth of time to do the grid. But leading us off, Nicholas Maynard alongside Dan Griffin on row number 1. Justin Hall alongside Jesse Olson for the second row. John Schwartz in 5th, as well as Nate Sides in 6th. Marcus Osborne leading off GT3M, way up in the middle of the GT3 Pros, alongside Matt Markley, Patrick Cantrell, Ian Baker, Mitch Ventura, and Mauricio Marquez Ramos round out the top 12. Kevin, we got a small grid tonight. I'm going to have you hop through the rest of these drivers as soon as I hit the button to move them down in... That should be all of the rest of them.
It should be. We got Nick Terrell in P13, ran the Portimao 1,000 kilometers with him this weekend. Had a little bit of an issue, but finished P12 in the sweaty second split, so we'll take that. Luke Plaisance takes up P14, followed by Landon Orr and Chris Wells. Kevin Medina taking P17. Adam Dahl in P18. Rotes the Sauce in P19, followed by Chris Krause and newcomer Wesley Woods. Hopefully Wesley got those audio issues sorted out. Joe Evers takes pole in the GT4 class, followed by the only AM tonight, Sean Roberts. Those are your 2 Aston Martin boys, with Tyler Roberts in 3rd in the Mercedes.
Fantastic. Which time split did you do of the Portimao 1000?
We did the Saturday morning, so the noon UTC.
Yep.
So
gotcha.
The sweatiest one that we could get to, I think we were a 3200 SOF. So wasn't the most populated special event. I mean, a 3200 SOF I think is what we ran at Daytona, and we were split 17 in the D24. It felt like. So it was good to see a cool event like that with kind of some classic cars as populated as it was. I think we had 50 cars in our lobby, but the GT1s were almost as fast as the HPDs on the straight, and Nick ended up getting turned by a GT1 in the second corner because he was slowing up for the HPDs in front of him. Yeah, and they didn't leave a gap, so started us in a bit of a hole, and we had some other issues, but fought our way back.
Well, sounds like you had a commendable finish. All the same. We did the Friday night split, and I was like, second split for us was the bottom split, because there's only 2 splits on Friday night. And that was a very different strength of field for a second split than I think you experience, or most people experience as second split. I definitely feel like that was going to be the smallest event of the year, and still got a respectable P4 out of it. Wasn't that surprised, but they're definitely drivers that had there been more splits, we would have been, I think, in a more relative field to where we should have been.
Absolutely. Were you guys in the GT1s? Or
no, we were in the HPDs.
Love that car. It's such a good car.
Speaking of cars, they're coming down the start-finish stretch to go racing here in just a moment's time. That green flag waves. Nicholas Maynard taking away the field alongside Dan Griffin. Great launch for both of them. Jesse Olson on the outside of Justin Hall. But Justin Hall holds that inside line. John Schwartz, that's the individual I was talking about, dives up the inside, trying to get past Jesse Olson and take up a spot here. Gets into the back end of Justin Hall ever so briefly. Got a couple more in the back.
Spin up in Druids.
Chris Krause, Adam Dahl,
they all made it through.
Okay.
I don't think anyone got caught up in it.
Good. Oh, no, and that's going to be Landon Orr. And Marcus Osborne as well, just up the road. But our top front runners, Dan Griffin, Nicholas Maynard, as they were. Nicholas Maynard and Dan Griffin as they were. The rest of the field following behind. Top 6 right now, separated by only about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. And a gap from them down, from Nate Sides, back to Ian Baker. as they get through lap number 1. Jesse Olsen getting a good run out of the final corner to John Suarez, who I think might have a slowdown based on that. But we'll have to see. Not enough to actually cause him to stay behind Jesse Olsen, though.
We're getting feisty.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's going to be 30 minutes of qualifying laps. And I could not agree more based on the way that this race has started. Taking a look back, I wanted to take a look at the spin. Chris Kraus, Adam Dahl labeled as crashed in this one. I think it's probably a spin for both of them. I think getting into the braking zone.
I saw Adam Dahl get backwards.
Oh, and that's
just 3 into 1.
Yep.
Doesn't go there. And real unfortunate for Adam, who just really had nowhere to go. Racing incident for lap 1, but
I want to see Landon Orr also labeled as having the off there from the spin. Oh. I need to see if I can grab that one again from a different angle.
I think he may have gotten turned.
I think so.
I think Kevin Medina may just have not realized where his nose was.
Yeah. Let's see if I can.
And Kevin Medina is a very, very clean driver. We don't usually see any issues with Kevin Medina that involve someone else. So just lap 1, just misjudging it just a tiny bit, and unfortunately Landon gets the short end of the stick there.
Yeah. A few more popping in. Nick Terrell labeled as off track here. Luke Plaisance right behind him. Just a nice little ride into the gravel. Lose that spot to Luke Plaisance, but keeps it going the right way afterwards. Nicholas Maynard as well, diving into an off track. I think it's just a very simple one. We'll have to look here. Maybe just just riding the outside there. Gonna have a compromise entry, but seems to have held on to the lead.
And those are the ones that add up. At 10Xs, they are drive-throughs at 10Xs. So as these guys start to earn some off tracks here, it's going to be, I'm looking at the board. We've already got a driver with 3, 2, a driver with 5, a driver with 4. So we're already racking up some of the options. Now, some of those were 4Xs, but as this race goes on, we'll see how these incidents play out. I've certainly gained a few spots here before because someone had to serve a drive-through late in the race, and I'm sure some guys are looking just to maybe keep it clean and luck into some positions.
Certainly the case. Speaking of lucking into positions, but not through incidents. John Schwartz, getting past Justin Hall on the exit of, I think it's turn number 5. Gotta go pull my draft map, make sure I got everything correct there as well.
Maybe turn 6 or 7? I don't know. They all start to blend together.
They do indeed, but John Schwartz setting a much more rapid time this last time by. Had an off track there, so doesn't qualify as his fastest time, but running a time equivalent of that of Nicholas Maynard there at the front, and setting a lap time about as fast as him, and then Dan Griffin setting the fastest lap of the race, his most recent time by, to keep himself within stone's throw of Nicholas Maynard. These two have been in a duel at the tip of the spear all season long, I feel like.
Yeah, these two really cannot separate from each other. I think they ran away with it at Watkins Glen, and they've been doing it all year. Early in the season, both had some issues of their own. I remember Spa was one of those races where for some reason both of them just got into it. So they've had their inconsistencies, which the drop weeks help flatten out some. But definitely expect to see these two dueling it out again at Mosport later tonight, and then next week for the finale. I'd expect to see these guys possibly fighting for the championship going into next week with a couple other drivers.
I'd have to imagine that's the case. But time will tell us if that is correct or not. Mitch Buenaventura and Ian Baker duking it out for P7, both overall and in class. Ian Baker coming out ahead of that this time by. Oh, but Mitch is looking for the opportunity there. I want to take a quick ride along, see how he's getting through this, or how it looks to be in kind of the second spot of this battle between these two cars. You can see he's having that look there, it looks like. Trying to keep the options open for him to get around, should he have one. Kevin Medina went off track. Ooh. Let's see here. Oh, man. I don't want to take my eyes off this battle for the moment. I am curious, though. One of a handful of battles currently on the track. Let's dive along, see what happened with Kevin here just a moment ago. Oh, had a self-spin of his own. And that one puts him square into the barrier. Wing currently off, and he just jumps to the pits.
Oh, Wing just deciding after hitting the wall, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna take the day off.
I don't need to be here. It'll be fine. Chris Kraus, Wesley Woods in a heated battle for P6 in GT3M. Wesley Woods heading off track a little while ago, as did, I believe, Chris Kraus prior to that.
Wesley Woods already only one incident away from one incident away from a drive-through, so he's having a rough night out there in his debut here in OMEC.
Yeah, but I think it is one. I don't remember myself having a very notably clean debut, so I think with time we'll see him improve, as we do with a lot of the drivers here. And that move, well executed. Oh, I think that'll be the nail in the coffin there for Wesley. I was going to hop over to Marcus Osborne, who I thought was battling with Adam Dahl for position, but I think Adam Dahl got a little further behind. So moving back up the order. Oh, especially with a move like that, unfortunately. Adam Dahl having that spin there in between turns 7 and 8. Ian Baker, Mitch Benaventura back at it again as Mitch throws the look up the inside. Can't make it stick, though. We'll have to remain behind Ian Baker for the moment. Now, what's the play here when you've been riding behind, car in front of you is pretty defensive? What's the goal here to get around, the car in front of you?
I think that's the point where you just hold the flashers down for an entire lap and see if you can induce a mistake. I mean, there's he gets real close there.
Yep.
I mean, really the only place where you can make moves here, you can do it into Druids if you get a better run through one. But turn one's not a corner you want to go side-by-sided, so you got to really time that up correctly. If you can get the run out of 3, you might be able to make a move into 4, and then there's really not a lot of other overtaking opportunities here. A lot of this track, you need the whole width, and if you're going to put it side by side, you better be door to door by the time you get to the apex, because if you are even a little bit timid here, you and the car you're trying to pass are probably both going around for a spin. So it's a lot of more just trying to make the guy sweat, force a mistake out of him, and then take advantage of it. As you see, and this is what Mitch is doing here. So Mitch could have maybe thrown up the inside, but it's just a little sketchy there. So you'll see him just continue to put the pressure on and try to force a little bit of a mistake out of Ian, as Ian's kind of wide here and there, trying to probably look in his mirrors to see if Mitch is going to make a move. And you'll see Mitch probably over the next couple laps just start to kind of poke his nose here and there, make Ian think about it, think about defending, because you can be really aggressive against the defense here because you can put the guy in such a compromised spot for the run to the next corner.
We'll have to see how this develops over the next couple laps. I'd seen John Suarez, Dan Griffin get within a second of each other. And just a little ways up, Justin Hall, Nate Sides also in a pitched battle. Though I think as soon as I pull away, I'm going to do the F1 camera move of pulling away from the action right as it hits a boiling point. So, not quite the case. But Patrick Cantrell, as well as Mauricio Marquez Ramos, also in the background of this shot in their own battle. And John Schwartz setting the fastest lap of the race this most recent time by 800ths ahead of Dan Griffin, only 100th ahead of Nicholas Maynard's fastest lap. 220 or 122.21 to the 122.20 of John Schwartz. How does the engine difference between these cars, especially when we're looking at the battle between Ian Baker and Mitch Bonaventura, play into how their driving styles, or where they can make the moves or the risks? How's that change for them as that engine is placed in different spots on the car?
It really changes how you enter and exit a corner. The Porsche's a little floatier on entry, but it really can put the hammer down without worrying about too much oversteer. However, it's understeery, so you got to really know how to get that nose turned in. The front engine cars I can't speak too much about. I don't like running them all that much. I've heard good things about the Mustang, but I can't speak too much about how the dynamics of that car works. Me personally, the McLaren's my favorite to drive. In my opinion, it's very well balanced. Some people think it's a little oversteery on entry. To me, it just kind of plays into how I like to enter a corner. So you kind of, it is one of the reasons why in OMEC we don't let guys change cars track to track, so they can't just pick and choose whatever meta car it is that week that happens to have a little bit of a dynamic that fits that track well. But it allows you to kind of learn how to drive a certain car in a certain way and how to adapt your driving style to the car. I learned a lot of that here in OMEC because I would change cars almost every season. I think, is that Jesse Olsen going slow there?
That is Jesse Olsen going slow there. I was trying to figure out what happened. I think the only way we'll be able to do it is if we just start rewinding, because I have nothing on my ticker saying that he has done anything egregious, but I think he got either a slowdown here. Something happened. I don't know.
It's like he went on his pit limiter.
Yeah.
You see if you rewind,
yeah,
his flashers turn on and his rear.
The rain light blinks. Yeah.
The rain light blinks, and I think his front headlights start flashing like he's on the pit limiter.
Mm-hmm.
What a bizarre incident. I wonder if he just kind of clipped it with his hand.
Oh, yeah. That would be possible.
What a strange incident.
We're getting into the traffic, really the tail end of the traffic, as Joe Evers as well as Sean Roberts make their way around are worried about lap traffic. Mitch Ventura throwing on the lights, let him know that Sean, that he is going by to continue his fight with Ian Baker. That has not gone anywhere anytime soon. John Schwartz getting around Dan Griffin. That is a lap traffic, I think, playing a huge part in that. Let's see if I can find it because I'm curious when that happened. Okay, let's take a look at this battle for the second position on the podium. Oh, a off track for Dan Griffin. Throwing that one into a much easier pass for him than I think he was probably anticipating.
And Dan went off earlier a little bit to give Nick a bit of breathing room on lap 4 or 5. I don't quite remember. And Dan maybe not super comfortable with his braking points right now. I don't know if he's pushing, trying to catch back up and just overdriving the car. But certainly having a little bit of an issue there with... Did Mitch just try to send it in there in turn 1? No,
well, Mitch sent it in there from the end of the lap across the start-finish stretch into turn 1. And so they've been... That side-by-side battle had been happening for a little while as soon as we jumped back from that replay. and looked at the two of them. Looks like he's finally gotten that move done.
We're gonna need to go to replay again to see that one.
Let's take a look here. They start the pass a while ago at the end of the final corner. Maybe the same issue I think that maybe Dan Griffin was having on that final corner. Has the outside line here. Ian Baker keeps his nose in though. Let's take the inside line throughout all of that. And they just go too wide across the entire front stretch into turn one.
Ian left him too much room. He was being too nice.
He was being too kind.
Really needed to squeeze Mitch all the way to the grass there to open up the corner for himself. But that also puts you at a risk for a major collision. So Ian lives on to fight another day and says, you know what? I'll take it. I'm still here.
Yep, I think that might be the thing both of them are excited about, is that neither have found themselves in the gravel trap or against that tire barrier. Though, with that line there from Mitch, Ian was right back into it by the looks of it.
He thought about it sending down in the Druids there. I was surprised he didn't just poke his nose to try to say hello.
Well, speaking of trying to say hello, Dan Griffin right on the tail of John Schwartz. These two passed last lap. And now they're back into it as well. We haven't ridden along with a Mustang, I think, in approximately 2 races. So we can look out the tank slot of a front windscreen that the Mustang has. I feel like all I need to be doing now is queuing up some Fury theme music and just yelling tank commands. So.
You know, it is crazy how far back in this cockpit you sit.
Yeah.
As the driver, you feel like the dash is 7 feet away from you, and then you've got this big, enormous hood. To me, it feels super unnatural. Oh wow!
Oh.
And John backs out. John does not want to deal with that right now.
Nope. Dan has that lunge, gets the move done, tying Nicholas Maynard for the fastest lap. Say we pull up our best lap time here. Technically only 3 thousandths faster.
You know, and even with these two battling, Nicholas Maynard hasn't really ran away. He's got a 2.5 second gap, but that's certainly, you know, a small off track here that time's away. And you know, you can see him that was the bottom of his wing coming across the bottom of the screen there. So, you know, with even the slightest mistake, these two could be right back on his tail looking at a 3-way fight for the win. Or this lap traffic coming up in front of him as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Tyler Roberts, I think, allowing him by without too much issue. Whether or not that's going to be the case for these two drivers, yet to be seen. Nate Sides as well as Justin Hall in a battle for their own for P number 4. Nate Sides already up 1 position, looking for his second of the night. Talking about a car with a long nose that I think is about as long, if not longer. That Mercedes AMG is always a one.
You may as well be sitting on the rear wing when you're driving this thing. At least that Mercedes has a little bit better visibility, in my opinion, than the Mustang. The Mustang, I mean, a tank slot's a great way to put it. It is like looking through a pinhole, it feels like, when you're looking at it at the racetrack. The body of the car takes up so much of your field of view when you're in that cockpit.
Yeah, even in VR, there's no. Like, I feel like it's the only one where I'm like, I don't feel like I've made a right choice being in VR, because usually have so much. The way it displays feels so much more natural to how you usually sit in a real car. You know, either sim racing or your racing car, or, daily driver. But it's one where I'm like, this feels like it'd be a really hard thing to look through, regardless of if I'm in sim racing or real life. I don't know how they do it over at Multimatic.
It must just be used to it. I mean, I can't imagine the visibility out of Rockefeller and those old Audis when they first put the cockpit in. I can't imagine the visibility was great out of that thing when he first had to drive that car. So, I mean, he did drive it when it was open top at Le Mans, which that is wild that was even ever a thing.
I think that removes all the problems that we have with the closed cockpit. It's one of the things I loved about the HPD was that was open cockpit too.
Oh, the visibility was insane in that thing.
Yeah,
No
it was so
halo
nice.
either, where all the modern
Yeah.
cars have the halo. It was crazy, the visibility there. You very much can just zone out and let it go.
Ooh, it's three-way battle.
Nate bails out.
Oh, only a little bit though, before having to brake to not run into the rear end of Justin Hall. Just a little ways up the road, John Schwartz, Dan Griffin still in this battle. One of two really close fights for position at the moment on track. The rest seeming to spread out just a little bit.
Yeah, everyone seems to have kind of fallen into their rhythm, kind of realizing where their race is going to go. I'd imagine no one's saving, but no one might be pushing too hard yet if they're kind of on the edge of grip, and the tires are going to get hot. Track time's about 100 degrees right now, but this track will kill your left front tire, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some guys are thinking about, all right, well, they've been saving for the last couple laps, and now it's time to start pushing again for the last 7.5 minutes here.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the last 7.5 minutes goes for these drivers. As I'm trying to find, not this one, that one? Yeah. John Schwartz, Dan Griffin, the battle between these two, and on paper, still floating at about half a second, one way or the other.
Nick Bandert stretched his legs a little bit here. He's been able to pull out about another half second.
Oh, that's another off track for
no.
Dan Griffin, however. Just throws that back in the way of John Schwartz. So I think as these two continue to fight, that gap is just going to keep increasing for Nicholas Maynard now that he's able to just kind of keep running.
Maynard loves what he's seeing in his rearview mirror right now. Just keep on fighting, boys. P2's important. Let me get out of here. So he couldn't be happier that those two are fighting. I think that's Wesley Woods taking another drive through there. We've got a couple drivers who are getting close, so we will see what happens here at the end. I think only one of our front drivers is in the ballpark, so we'll see as they start pushing over these next maybe 4 laps if they're able to keep their noses clean and keep it off of pit lane.
Be, I think, very detrimental to these drivers if that was the case. Ooh, Nate Sides got back up this battle between these two as they get around Landon. Both drivers, both this fight as well as the fight between Dan Griffin and John Schwartz, sitting about 2 tenths between each other. You can see that there on the timing tower.
It's such a good track. I know I've said about 13 times already.
I feel like it fits these cars as well as GT cars very well, and allows them to have their style of driving, I think, without too many real issues.
I think that's it. Is it allows the cars to do what they're good at, and it highlights their strengths and kind of hides their weaknesses, and it's just the drivers can really extract everything from it, and being a little ballsy here and there can make up for some time, and it can also cost you. So it's fun to see a track that actually rewards risk when you take it, and wants you to push the car and throw it in, and maybe talk a little dirty to it.
So, Nate Sides getting right onto that rear bumper of Justin Hall's car. Mauricio Marquez Ramos and Ian Baker, as well as Patrick Cantrell, to a lesser extent, find themselves all within about a second of each other. As this battle continues to kind of swing between the three of them, Mitch Bonaventura putting a 4-second gap on Ian now that he is free of that Mustang. See these two still nose to tail, hasn't changed at all since the start of this race. 4 minutes left on the clock. These two battling it out for these podium spots. Dan looking for that over-under into turn number 1. John says, we've seen this before. We know where this dance goes. But this time, I'm not going to lift or be as nice.
If he can get back under, he can't. What a move from Dan there.
Yeah.
Compromised on exit. They both are going to be compromised on exit here.
Yep. Joe Evers trying not to be in the way of these two drivers as he continues his own fight for GT4 overall lead, which that race has been pretty quiet between these two drivers. Been about a second between Sean Roberts and Joe Evers for most of the race. Separated, changes hands pretty regularly depending on who gets the better end of the traffic stick. I think it's another off track, however, for Dan Griffin. So we'll have to see if those rack up to be a problem here at all.
I'll just
under.
say he has plenty in hand. He should be fine from what I'm seeing.
A wounded Adam Dahl trying to turn laps to get this race to a complete, throwing a wrench in the battle between Nate Sides as well as Justin Hall. Mauricio Marquez Ramos, Ian Baker now in that fight, much similar that we saw with Dan Griffin and John Schwartz just a second ago. I think we got about, 2 laps left, you believe?
Yeah, coming. Well, let's see. Where are they on track? Yeah, I think we're going to probably have 1 to go next time by. So, about 1.5 laps left, 2 laps as the guys start to cross the line down here where Mauricio is.
Mm-hmm.
He's flashing his lights, trying to distract Ian in front of him, I think, just to maybe grab his attention a little bit going into 1.
I think both of them are also trying to let Wesley Woods know there's a battle going on behind him, and he's might be in the way of it here in a moment.
Nick Maynard's checked out.
I believe so. Nicholas Maynard,
See
I believe,
you later.
trying to take the white flag this time by. I believe I have what'll be a black flag for Jesse Olsen for incident limits. Maybe? Or a slowdown penalty. Let's see.
I'm not sure. I didn't get a black flag on my end of the fence. I think he's okay.
Okay. I got a race control light on my software, which might be new, and I'm gonna have to figure out what that exactly does. But Nicholas Maynard coming around for this final time. Patrick Cantrell, Mauricio Marquez Ramos. Oh, on the exit of the final corner.
Oh, gosh, I thought he
it.
was going to come back and collect a few of them there.
Good heads-up driving from Patrick Cantrell to keep that from happening. Both him and Mauricio Marquez Ramos getting around Ian Baker last lap. But I think that battle comes to a bit of a close, or will be soon. And meanwhile, Nicholas Maynard 3 seconds ahead of Dan Griffin, who is 4 seconds ahead now of John Schwartz, which I think that car might be running out of fuel. It felt like a lot of lift and coast there.
You know, they shouldn't be worried about fuel, but he might be just taking it nice and easy.
That's fair. Nicholas Maynard going to take home the checkered flag. And we're going to hop back onto that board to that fight between Ian Baker, Luke Plaisance, as well as Patrick Cantrell. 2 of these from position. Luke Plaisance caught in the middle, just on a race of his own, trying to get overall points, which do matter regardless of where he finishes in class, because they all get scored together. Ian Baker defending that line. And we'll see him get that over-under. If Luke Plaisance beats him to the line, it's going to be close. As Mitch Bonaventura pulls over to the side of the road. And he gets passed.
Did he underfuel his car?
I get the feeling he
and run
did.
Out of fuel.
As he's still sliding, he just now
no.
crossed the line. And he ends up in 11th, down a good number of positions. So I think that is the answer is yes.
Go back on board with him and listen in. Yeah, he runs out of fuel. Looks like coming out of turn 8 almost. He's a long way from the line and starts sputtering.
Oh, man.
That's so unfortunate for him.
Absolutely. All right. As Tyler Roberts is our final finisher to come across the line, we're able to hop over to our results for this race. We'll start back up at GT3 Pro. Just going to see Nicholas Mader taking home that win 2 seconds ahead, or 2.881 seconds ahead of Dan Griffin in P number 2. John Schwartz rounds out that podium a few seconds behind him. Justin Hall and Nate Sides, a close finish between those two drivers for 4th and 5th for the top 5. Jesse Olsen is going to be in 6th. Mauricio Marquez Ramos comes home 7th after that late race fight with Ian Baker, nets him the spot. And Ian will come home in 8th. Patrick Cantrell almost coming home in 8th as well, has that slide on the last lap that he thankfully turned into just a little bit of an incident and not a huge pile up between them. And Nick Terrell rounds out the top 10. Mitch Ventura ends up in 11th after a unfortunate underfueling. Matt Markley comes on P12, and then Kevin Medina, while he started this race, does not finish. Kevin, GT3M finishers, how are they stacking up?
We have Luke Plaisance coming in here and with authority, a 25-second win over second place Chris Wells here at the GT3 AM class. Marcus Osborne taking home the podium, followed closely by teammate Chris Kraus. Landon Orr comes home P5 after his early race incident. Adam Dahl P6. Wesley Woods, a couple drive-throughs. We'll hope to see a better showing out in Mosport from him in P7. And Charles Rhodes finishing a whole 10 laps down in P8. I don't think Charles ended up seeing the checkered flag there. Unfortunate race for him this evening.
Unfortunately, hopefully he has better luck at Mosport here in just a little bit of time. Joe Evers, and going to be your GT4 Pro winner, almost minute ahead of Tyler Roberts. I believe there was some sort of, an incident there that we didn't quite catch on the broadcast for those two for I believe Tyler, which put him so far behind. And we have one finisher for GT4M. It's going to be Sean Roberts, who takes home that fantastic win. And those are going to be our results. Anybody in the interview room that we want to take a talk to or somebody we can grab?
We have nobody in the interview room. We have nobody. We have Luke Plaisance we can steal if you want to speak to him.
We could, yeah. We can talk about that photo finish between him and Ian Baker. Well, not for position, was for overall points.
It was, that's true, because Ian Baker's a pro. Here comes Luke.
Welcome to the booth, Luke.
Hey, what's going on?
Fantastic photo finish there at the
Man,
end.
that was the coolest finish for me the whole season.
Fantastic. Walk us through those last few laps. I know you were kind of trailing Patrick Cantrell for a while there. How did that unfold to where you were, chasing time there with Ian across the line?
The previous lap before white flag, the 3 cars in front of me was Ian Baker, Patrick Cantrell, I don't remember the other guy, but they really started trying to pass each other. They're like, all right, let's make some moves. A little bit of contact. Seems like they were kind of slowing down a bit, which gave me a lot of time. So I was able to catch right back up to them. And with all those moves being made, things got kind of shuffled around. So I kind of got into that scrap. I just knew that I was like, cool, this was a super clean race. Let's not mess this up. So I really wasn't even trying to make any kind of pass. But I got so close to Ian, I was like, well, it's the last lap, let's try something. And I kind of feinted a couple passes there to keep him real tight on the inside. and then I was able to kind of make a move on the last corner, which he got me by a fender, but that was an incredible finish.
I'd say a fantastic photo finish. Another win to add to your roster, a pretty extensive one this season for you. Pretty consistent driving there. Has that been your key to success, or is there something specific you've been doing in that BMW to keep getting you all those GT3 M wins?
No, absolutely. You nailed it right on the head. It's really about the consistency. With stacking up against the pro field, I'm definitely not the fastest guy out there, but I can for sure, at least stay on the track, hopefully, most of the time, and then just try to hammer out consistent laps over and over, and then, you get handed positions kind of like this where, your consistency kind of pays off.
Fantastic stuff. Kevin, any questions from you for Luke?
You ready for most sport?
Yeah, I actually bought both of these tracks yesterday. I've driven Brands Hatch in other games. I'm still a little fresh to Canadian Tire. It's a very fun track. On paper, when I looked at it from the map, I was like, wow, this track looks super boring. It's actually quite the opposite. Lots of elevation changes. I'm excited, though. I think it's going to make for some good racing.
I agree. With that, I'm going to send you back to the party chat, and good luck in Canada.
Man, thanks.
Fantastic stuff. Why don't we take a quick break as we get in between races? I think we'll be back in just a moment for Canadian Tire Motorsport. I don't have a BRB screen set up. I should fix that. All right. Well, we're not interviewing Jesse Olson. Welcome back, everybody. Let me get this set up correctly. Before we get back into racing action, we're going to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the second race of the evening, for the sprint race, as we look at the beautiful trees of the Canadian countryside. A slightly longer track, if I remember correctly. Not by much, though.
It is a little bit longer than Brands Hatch. A little more mix in corner types, but altogether still kind of has that old school, a lot of elevation change, quick flowing corners. So should be fun to see the drivers out there tonight.
Awesome. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Speaking of drivers, do we want to get through and look at some championship standings for these drivers? As I hear the tires of Mitch Bonaventura go sliding off the road.
Yeah, let's see where we were at. This obviously doesn't take into account the race we just came from. So after week 7, so this is through week 6.
Yes.
Through week 6.
Week 6. Nick Terrell heading off the points at 337. Michael Doyen not far behind at 319. This is with, I believe, the first drop round applied, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's correct.
Matt Markley rounding out that podium with 304 points, just 2 points ahead of Patrick Cantrell. So a battle for the bottom step of the podium still very much raging as we get into the closing rounds here of season 11. Nate Sides with 284, just ahead of Kevin Medina with 265 as your top 6. Mauricio Marquez Ramos, Nicholas Maynard, Kelvin Collado, and Jesse Olson all round out the top 10, still in those 200 points. Top 10, Dan Griffin and Jesse Olson battling it out for that 10th spot with only a point separating those two, as well as Kelvin Collado and Nicholas Maynard with 2 points separating them as well. Justin Hall, Tony Caicedo, William LeMaster, Ian Baker are your top 15 from 12 to 15. And then, let's see if I hit the button to do everything correctly. Yep, it'll see Andre Saba, as well as Mitch Bonaventura, Jason Larson, and Sergei Perok are the 19 drivers currently listed with points in the GT3 Pro category. Any big movers or cars you are surprised to see where they are in this category, Kevin?
Is this the most updated scoring?
It's what I just pulled from GT3 Pro on the website.
Interesting. My website shows me something different.
We'll
figure it out after.
Are you on GT3 M?
I'm looking at GT3 Pro. I have Nick Maynard in first with 487 points.
Cool. So mine, even though I had launched the page, it pulled the cached page, which is why none of these are right. So you're right. And even though I just opened the web browser with that tab, it pulled the cache tab and not the real one.
That's interesting. Either way, these were the standings at one point.
These were the standings at one
cover
point.
Other standings later. I will go through GT3 AM.
Go through the real one.
And leads.
We'll talk about what I have on yeah. Go through the real one, because apparently that is nowhere near right, and I'm now super curious why I decided to pull a cache page and not the real one. Anyway,
I'm going to go through the top 10 in all the divisions. Let's just do that.
Sick.
Luke Plaisance leads
let's
GT3 AMs at 396 points. Chris Kraus in second with 387. Marcus Osborne in third, 377. So you got 2 teammates there, 20 points separate the top 3. Chris Wells sitting just behind them at 355 points, separated only by 6 points ahead of Charles Rote sitting in P5. Richard Costanza, P6. Joshua Harless is sitting 7th in the standings. Khalil McIntyre in P8. Landon Height, P9. And Landon Orr, P10. Only about 130 points from 1st to 9th. It's about 120 for a win. So you've only got about 1 win worth of points between 1st to 10th. So real tight standings there over in the GT3 AM class. In the pros, Nicholas Maynard leads at 487 points. He is 11 points up on Dan Griffin in second. Nicholas Maynard with 6 wins to Dan's 2, really carrying the lead there. Jesse Olson in third with 470 points. Nick Terrell in fourth with 457. 30 points separate the top 4 positions. Patrick Kinchell rounds out the top 5. William Lemaster, P6, Matt Markley, P7, Michael Doyen sitting in P8 with Nate Sides close behind, 3 points back in P9. Andre Saba rounds out the top 10. Only 77 points separate first through 10th in the GT3 Pro division. So once again, real tight fights all through there. GT4 AM, we got Sean Roberts leading Jaden Broussard, followed by Kyle Orbitz, Connor Smith, Jordan Oliver, Solomon Landauer, Ken Duvall, Jordan Yacobonis, Colin Olson, and Tim Schaefer. GT4 Pro, we only have 5 drivers, so I'll give you all of them. Tyler Roberts leads from Sean Harvey, Tyler Roberts leads over Joseph Evers, followed by Sean Harvey, Gary Yee, Devin Adams, and then Joachim Silva Tazo in 5th place. There you go.
Fantastic. Good
That's all of
stuff.
them.
That's the actual points and the actual point differentials between all these drivers. Not whatever my computer decided it wanted to show me, and I took it verbatim without fact
I've never
checking.
seen that before, where it just loads a cached page.
I don't know what happened there. It just wanted to load a cache page, I guess. To be fair, I didn't. It was a tab that I had open, but it's not a specific like standings with a sub, like and a further, black backslashes with more, text behind it to give the cache. I don't know. Either way, we got to the right stuff eventually. With a minute left in practice, I think we nailed that pretty well. Once we decided not to use brutal crash there, Sean Roberts and Kevin Medina.
And that is one of those places too. You saw it with Dan Griffin sneaking through there. If you're on the wrong side of that crash and have to evade, you can just lose gobs of time just trying to not be involved in someone else's incident. So, like I said, it's another tight circuit where it also looks wider than it is. I feel like, I don't know if it's the color of the pavement here, but something about this track makes you feel like you got a lot more room side to side than you really do. A lot of the corners kind of tighten up on you as you go through them, and all of a sudden you're all the room you thought you left someone is now gone.
I feel like it definitely has sections of it that are wider than others, and then also because of the way the racing line takes you all the way across the circuit pretty much constantly, it's not like I think you really have a whole lot of usable circuit that you can go too wide on without realizing you're going to be going into or out of someone's path as practice comes to a rapid conclusion.
I think three drivers saw 15 seconds left and decided, let's see if we can full throttle one.
Yeah.
It's 3 in a row went off through the gravel there.
All right. We saw GT3s on our first race of the evening. I want to see a lap with the GT4s when they get back around to the start finish stretch. This beautiful 90s paper cup liveried Aston Martin.
The only way I can describe it too.
Yeah,
I have a sweatshirt with this design on it, funnily enough.
That's fantastic. I would love. That would be a sweatshirt I think I would add to the list of sweatshirts I wear regularly.
It's like a kind of a dry fit material. It's nice. I'm a big fan of it.
So it's one of those ones that's really comfy regardless of time of year.
It can be super hot out, it feels fine. It can be super cold out, feels great. And you look like a styrofoam cup. What's not to love? So before Sean starts his lap here, since we are broadcasting and we need to fill a little bit of space, there was a question asked on a baseball broadcast last night.
Okay.
And it has the internet up in arms. Which is, how did the first guy who built a clock know what time it was to set that clock?
Are we talking common clocks or sundials?
No, yeah. Like a common clock. Like you got your hands, your minute hands, your second hand, your hour hand.
It was based off
of the first guy to build a clock.
Yeah. I believe the answer is they took the idea of the sundial and broke it down further, if I remember correctly. Because the sundial was the way they used to tell time prior.
That's what I said. I don't know if my answer is correct, but my answer was that too. I said, well, if you just take a sundial and you wait till noon and you set your clock to noon, and then you just start your clock at noon, problem solved.
Yeah, but everybody had their times different depending on where you were in the. That's how we got in. Eventually, we got to time zones.
Oh, we're going to attend to how time zones got created now. Yeah, we're going to help the railroad.
Yep. So I think all those are, tangentially related to the sundial.
Speaking of time, Sean Roberts on a hot one here.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good segue. I'm proud of that one.
You should be. Very well done.
Speaking of clocks, who's your bet for GT4 pole here?
I want to say it's going to be Joe Evers once again, because I think he has great one-lap pace. I'm curious to see if he can keep that gap closer to Sean Roberts in the race. So, speaking of, we haven't. When he gets back to start finish line, you want to do an onboard with a GT4 around here?
I can tell you what corners they are. I can't tell you what gears. It's not gonna be as good as my GT3 lap, but I can.
Okay.
I can give it.
I mean, I can give it a go because I'm much more familiar with GT4s.
Then it's yours. This is all yours. I haven't driven a GT4 since I graduated from D class.
They are, I feel like, a very undervalued race car. One of my personal favorite classes that I wish got more love in sim racing. So we'll hop on board here as he comes across that start finish line to finish up a lap. I think he got an off track that last time by, so he did not get it. Got a time in, but it's a little bit slow here. It's a little bit slower throughout this corner than you usually are in the GT3. A little less downforce. You're gonna be definitely lifting a lot more here and waiting to get that car rotated using the engine braking. And then you're on the power, but you have to make sure it doesn't go sliding out from underneath you. Much more momentum based, kind of like a borderline between like a GT3 or a TCR, but momentum is a huge factor in these cars and getting great lap times. Sean Roberts setting 3 faster purple sectors to go even quicker and put himself on provisional pole there for the GT4 overall class. Oh, and that's going to look a little shaky out of there. Going to the hairpin, it is definitely one that you need to make sure you have all the room there. And going through the gears. Gears are a little weird in GT4s because there's no like universal. Aston Martins, as well as I believe the McLarens, have a very short first gear, so you almost never use it. So you're really going through 2 through 6. So you end up being a gear higher. So if we went jump from this over to Tyler Roberts, we'd see him going through most of this in 4th into 3rd, whereas Joe Evers is going in from 5th into 4th into 3rd. So Tyler Roberts setting the fastest lap here. Joe Evers getting a fastest purple sector, however. But it looks like that, I think, was unfortunately... Or excuse me. No, it was faster, but only 2/10 behind. So I don't think...
2/10 from 1st through 3rd in the GT4s. Wow. They are going to be all over each other this race. Just like last race, I think.
Certainly, I would say, unless something unfortunate happens. Most of the GT3...
I'll say this. If something unfortunate happens, I hope it happens to all 3 at the same time. That they have a race to tow and a race to the faster pair and then a race them back out.
Heck yeah. We'll believe. Nick Terrell setting P4, getting into P4 with a 115.97. Dan Griffin setting a 114.85 on his outlap. Almost a second faster than Jesse Olsen, who's currently in 2nd place. But we'll have to see Nicholas Maynard green in the first 2 sectors, see if he gets himself up on the board in between those 2 drivers. Only a 116.
That's who else we lost. John Schwartz is not here for the second session either. Unfortunately, looks like he wasn't able to make it.
He's a ghost in the shell.
He's a fast ghost. Is what he is. He's a bad man.
Giving both Dan as well as Nicholas Maynard a run for their money. We'll have to see here as Nicholas Maynard tries to get a better time in. A close look at GT3 AM though. Landon Orr and Luc Plaisance, only a 10th separating those 2 drivers. I think it's going to be a pretty tight battle in the GT3M race.
And then just another
here.
10th back to Marcus.
Oh,
those top
fantastic.
3 in the GT3AM are separated by 2 tenths, which you love to see.
Mhm.
If I'm doing my math correctly here.
Yeah.
3 tenths, close enough.
Well, it's 3/10 from the leader, so it's you're correct at being 1/10. Another 1.5 tenths back from Landon Orr. Another set of purple sectors, or excuse me, green sectors for Nicholas Maynard. Jumps him up to second. Still 7/10 behind Dan Griffin.
Wow. Dan must have set an absolutely stonking lap.
Believe that's the case.
Sometimes those laps just come together. I mean, I can't tell you how many times sometimes it's in qualifying, sometimes it's in practice, sometimes it's in a race, and a lap comes together that's just 2 or 3 KI rating above where you should be with the pace. You're like, well, I don't know where that came from. I don't know where it went. I'm never touching that lap time again.
Yep.
So Dan there with, a 1:14.8 is
Cooking.
I'm about to go dig on Garage 61 because I don't think I've ever touched that.
I think my fastest is about a 1:15.8, so about a second slower than him in a GT3. Oh, as Chris Cross was up. I think he's still on his in lap at the end of qualifying here. Just under a minute left. I think he is the only driver still out on track, and he's taking that car back to pit lane, but now is going to bring it to a tow. So we'll likely see ourselves jump over to the grid here in just a moment's time. Take you through the drivers and where they are starting off. Another 30-minute sprint race. I think we're going to see more of the same in terms of the 30 minutes of qualifying laps floating around. All right.
I didn't want to wait the minute. I pushed us along.
Very well. But we get our grid as a result. Top 12 are as they stand. Dan Griffin leads off. Nicholas Maynard, a trade in who was starting at the very tip of the spear. Jesse Olsen and Nate Sides this time alongside each other. For row number 2, Nick Terrell and Ian Baker are going to be 5th and 6th. Patrick Cantrell, Mauricio Marquez Ramos, 7th and 8th. Mitch Buenaventura, Matt Markley, Justin Hall are going to be 11 GT3 Pro drivers. The 12th one we'll see in just a moment. Kevin, GT3AM, how are they looking?
GT3AM, Luke Plaisance takes the pole position, followed by Landon Orr in P13 overall. Marcus Osborne and Chris Wells follow them, with Chris Kraus closely behind in P16. Adam Dahl and Wesley Woods are taking up the final row of our GT3 field there. I'm wrong. Kevin Medina snuck through at the bottom there. He's going to start from the rear of the field. Don't know if he set a qualifying lap.
I don't think he did.
He'll be trying to fight his way through. Maybe a self-imposed penalty for what happened at Brands Hatch. This is a track, once again, that's very easy to get your off tracks at, so we're going to have to watch those incident counts today. In the GT4s, we have Tyler Roberts, Sean Roberts, and Joe Evers once again, 1, 2, 3. An inverse of our field, the way it started at Brands Hatch, where Joe Evers was on the pole, Tyler Roberts was P3. Sean Roberts, once again, the bridesmaid, not the bride, sitting P2.
Well, given how he finishes that races, he's probably pretty happy with being P2 to start, because it means that he has something to look forward to, as well as that consistency that seems to take him every which way in the positive directions. Nicholas Maynard, Dan Griffin leading away the field as they're getting ready to go racing here in just a little ways time. Got a whole lap of pacing to get done here. GT4 field, you'll wait a moment and be a good ways behind the GG3s. Do you like the new BMW M2 CS pace car?
I love it. I wish we had some more options as the pace car. I think it's just seeing something different, right? We had the Porsche for so long. I personally, as a joke, always pick the pickup truck, even if it's on a road race. I will throw that pickup truck in as the safety car on any track here. I will say the one thing I want iRacing to add is to set your pace car speed. I think it'd be nice with yellow flags and whatnot. Sometimes I feel like the safety car's going just a little bit too slow. It'd be nice if we could control that. So Nim, Ozzy, Greg, the rest of the team, if you're watching here on a Tuesday night, let us change the pace car speed just a little bit. Give race control some more tools here that we can play with. How do you like driving that BMW M2 in general? Have you done much driving of that?
I have done absolutely zero driving of the BMW M2 CS. Sorry, that is not correct. I've driven exactly one lap of the Nürburgring in the BMW M2 CS to learn how fast it was or how fast it felt in comparison to a TCR. After that, I was like, I'm good. It's not bad. It's just definitely not a car.
It's very oversteery.
Yes.
The entry in that car is one of those cars where you kind of give it a little flick and then just let it slide.
Right, yeah.
It really just wants to be. It's a good drift car. I'll say that. It's a great drift car.
So, but it's cool to see them bring more rookie options available to sports car racing. I think MX-5 being the primary one for the rookie series now that they split up road into sports car and formula car, which I think it was just a thing waiting to happen. But with that car diving into pit lane, Dan Griffin's going to lead us off to a race here in just a moment's time. Green flag in the air as we see them all go 2-3 wide on the front straightaway. As they dive into turn number 1. Most of the field keeping it pretty good and tidy. Racer Marquez Ramos getting a good run there. Nate Side, Jesse Olsen 2 wide going into turn 2. Good number of cars off. Mitch Ventura. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say a couple cars off. Looks like it was Mitch and I believe that's Justin Hall. Oh, and Mitch gets into someone else. It's a messy start for Buenaventura. I think that's Medina who lost his front bumper. He's going to be really down on downforce now, and I think Justin Hall's going to get past Mitch here. Mitch might have some suspension damage from that. That's a pretty big hit on that front left of his car.
So, looks like that GT4s are all bunched up together. All three of them having a pretty smooth launch by comparison. And Nate Sides, Nicholas Maynard within a couple tenths of each other. Further back in the pack, Justin Hall, Adam Dahl swapping places there as he gets around that BMW. Mitch Buenaventura looking to do the same. Adam Dahl trying to not get into too much trouble here. Wants to keep that car going the right direction. Matt Markley looking to make up more positions. He's up 1 already. We'll see him as well as Ian Baker in a fight for P number 8. With the rest of the field flowing out in front of them. Luke Plaisance as well as Landon Orr, however, GT3 AM drivers, having a great, fantastic battle for the lead of their class at the moment. Tyler Roberts, we just saw a tail end of that as he makes friends with the barrier. I say friends loosely. I want to take a look at what happened here. Think he got a little into the grass, applying the power, and goes sliding off as that happens. Slides in there, bumps into that, and that back end is going to be unhappy as he gets that car moving again.
Good news, OMEC, right? One fast repair at every race, so he'll be able to come in and get that car. I still have a little bit of issue. He'll be able to come in and get that car fixed, and get back out there, and maybe if there's some issues with some other cars, he'll be able to get back in and maybe salvage a better result. I know there's only 3 cars down there, so he's going to be hoping for some issues with the first and second place car throughout this race.
I mean, he still comes home 3rd overall, which is still a great haul of points, I believe.
Still a great points haul, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still getting full points for 3rd, but I'm sure after being in first, he's a little disappointed to have dropped it on exit like that.
Mm-hmm. Justin Hall, Chris Kraus, both running wide. Justin Hall, I think, going to have an unfortunate spin into the barrier there. That's at the end, I believe, of turn number 1. That's not what I want. Justin Hall towing it to pits, not trying to risk having that car with the damage that it got. As well as Tyler Roberts diving into pit lane. Patrick Cantrell, Mercurio Marquez Ramos, these two having a battle earlier at Brands Hatch, seeming to pick up that fight right where they left it, as they are within a tenth of each other going into the S's, I believe they're called. Oh, that's a slide from Luke Plaisance as well at the final corner.
My goodness, it's all kicking off here early in this one.
That's going to drop him down the order all the way to the back of the GT3 AM grid. What's the mindset shift that you have to go through when you have like those super little spins that you can recover from without any real damage or minimal damage, to get, back into the groove and get back up to the spot where you were before the spin?
It's one of those things where it depends on how you're overdriving the car that causes the spin. Sometimes you're just a little happy on throttle that night, and you just got to take a lap or two to really think about your throttle application and get back used to it and kind of feel what the car wants from you, as the tires should be up to temp now. After a spin, they're going to be a little hot, so you got to be careful in the opposite direction. Just to make sure that you're taking care of them and making sure that you kind of feel what the car wants from you at certain parts of the circuit with your steering and throttle and brake application. So it can be really, really jarring too when you're not sure what caused it. When it's like, hey, I took that the same way. I've been taking it all night long and haven't had a spin there. And then all of a sudden a spin comes during the race and you're just really confused as to what caused it, and it can get in your head. So sometimes it's best to just not even think about it and do the opposite of what I just said, which is don't even think about it. Just get back to driving and try to get back into your flow state there rather than how you're going about driving it.
Yeah, I think it really, like you said, since it depends, I think, a lot on why you have the spin. Not a one size fits all, but I think that's true of most things in life. We're taking a quick ride along with Matt Markley, who's at the tail end of these 4 cars, all within about a second and a half of each other overall. And you can see, big movement in the tail there from Ian Baker, but he keeps that car going the right direction.
Yeah, the Mustangs seem to be kicking their tail out here. That's the third Mustang now we've seen with a lot of oversteer on the exit of that corner. That corner obviously just invites you. It wants you to put the power down too early. And you're going to do one of two things if you do. You're either understeering off into that really bumpy concrete curb section on the exit of Moss, or you're just going to loop the rear around and hit the wall on the opposite side. So you got to be careful. There's a lot of places here that it's one of those tracks where you're going so fast for so much of it that when you get to the slow corners, you got to really slow your brain down and just be patient with the throttle and be patient with your steering, because you just want to flick the car in, but all the aero you've had isn't there anymore because it's the only slow speed corner on the track.
Going from the window of Matt Markley's to the kind of rear gunner camera of Patrick Cantrell, who's now at the lead of this pack of cars. You can see all of them flow down into the hairpin here, right behind the race info and current timing tower standings. 5 of them still within just over a second or two of each other, including the leader of GT3 AM, Landon Orr, who is also now going to be, hopefully not too seriously, but has Mitch Ventura behind him at this point as he's gotten around Marcus Osborne. These 4, I think, really the big fight on track. Adam Dahl, Chris Wells, Chris Wells and Luke Plaisance, I think, just swap positions also. So the battle remains between, I think, these 4 drivers that we were looking at just a moment ago, with a little bit of gap between Ian and Mauricio Marquez Ramos of just over a second. With Mauricio now taking that
Mauricio
off.
doing a little bit of rally cross there.
Yeah. That rally cross, I think that'll keep Ian within a second of each other. If I dive back on with them, hit the battles box, hit the position, we'll see battle for 6th in class. We'll see that happen there with all these drivers. Patrick seems to be getting his lap a little more smooth, getting faster and faster each time by. Joe Evers, Sean Roberts, also within a second of each other. And I think Joe set a faster lap time this most previous time by 0.2. We'll see if that continues for these two drivers. I think Joe is looking for a position here if he can manage it. That gap seems to keep closing down for this car. Now, you haven't driven any GT4s, correct? Since you got out of D-Class.
I may have driven a GT4 and I hosted once, but I do not drive them. They are. I didn't get along with them. I think
Okay.
I was just at that point. I was already in a racing the Indy cars on the oval, and I just felt like I needed more downforce. So once I got through those, and I didn't like the LMP3, and I still don't like the LMP3.
What part didn't you like?
I don't know. They felt very floaty to me, and I didn't like how soft the suspension was. You know, I say that my first ever sports car win was in a T4. Was the Mercedes at VIR.
Okay.
But I don't know. The car just felt very, very floaty, and it just felt disconnected to me. And I know some guys feel like it makes perfect sense. Like they can kind of just let the car. It might just be that whole momentum-based driving thing.
Yeah.
Where I like cars that are a little bit lighter, like the LMP2, which is my favorite thing in the service. It's such a good car. It's one of the reasons why I won't be in the booth next year, because we're going to LMP2s next season with the GT3s, and you will see me on track.
I will see you on track. I'm not sure. I might be in the booth. We might rotate back in somebody else in the booth because I might want to drive the LMP2 as well. We'll find out.
Find out. Yeah, no, I'm very excited to be racing prototypes next season. I got a win last night at VIR in the LMP2,
Ooh,
actually,
very
funnily
good.
enough. So yeah, it's something about the GT4 is just a little floaty to me, a little bit heavy. I'm not sure. I can't describe it. Just the dynamics of them, I guess, is really what it comes down to.
Ian Baker taking a wide line here. I don't mean to cut you off or not give that the props moment, but I also want to talk about racing action that has developed here while we've been talking about LMP2s and its fantastic drivability and why GT4s are not as much fun in Kevin's eyes, and I don't blame you. I'm in the same boat. I do like the LMP3 though, because I think it's a great car to learn prototypes on because it's super unforgiving as these two go too wide. Speaking of unforgiving, which would have been sure trying to get the position done. Matt Markley forced to take the inside line, gonna hold it there, but so it'll trade back into the hands in the favor of Matt Markley for the moment. But these two are going to go too wide, all the way probably down to the hairpin is going to be my guess. Landon Orr just trying to find a way around both of them because he's like, my racing line is now super compromised. I just have cars in both directions.
And he's trying to build a little bit of that gap over Marcus Osborne, who's kind of crept in behind this group now for the GT3 AM win. So Landon's itching to get a move on here. If these guys keep fighting and getting in his way, he feels he's got a little bit more lap time in that Porsche.
I'd say the lap times definitely look like he has a little bit more lap time in that Porsche. Most time running faster. Landon Orr taking a look up the inside. Matt Markley saying, I got to take my racing line. Sorry. And keeps that door closed. But both still making a good amount of time over Marcus Osborne, who's currently sitting in second. I always find the LMP2 to be the most reliable of all these of all the prototypes. Like if I just want an easy drive that I will have a consistent experience in, I feel like I can just trust the LMP2 to at least give me not a terrible experience.
Yeah, I think it's just because it loves on-throttle rotation after exit, which is how I like to rotate a car. It's probably why I like the McLaren.
It's very similar in that regard, right?
Yeah, the McLaren's very similar, where it is very stable in the braking zone and on entry, and it just begs you to get on throttle a little bit harder and rotate the car using the rear end on exit. And the LMP2, in the same vein, loves to be driven that way. It can be a little understeery in the slow speed, but once you figure out the entry on exit, you can just, this is getting hairy.
This is getting hairy.
You can really just rotate the car with your right foot, and it just feels so great. And we're almost 3 wide going to 1 there. Sean Roberts, who's just trying to stay out of the way as best he can.
Yeah, just trying to stay alive. Both him and Joe Evers managing to get through that unscathed. That gap still sitting about a second between the two of them. This battle here for position, including a lapped Wesley Woods, who's coming out of pit lane. Further up the order, Nate Sides, Jesse Olsen swapping spots. I believe as Jesse Olsen trying to get that spot back. These two now within 0.3 of each other. It's right along. We've ridden along board with an Acura tonight. Definitely one of the cars that has one of the more, I think, unique in-car sounds of the GT3 offerings.
Yeah, it's a very different V6 sound than the Ferrari has, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's much raspier, I guess is the only way that I can put it. Or the Ferrari does sound more like half of a V12, whereas this guy kind of, it sounds like a V6, a turbo V6. Oh, we've got an issue on the front stretch.
Yeah,
Mauricio Marquez Ramos had a bit of an issue. Everyone gets by just okay.
Okay, we'll take a look at that here in a moment. Yeah, I say the hands really putting in the work there to keep that car going the right direction. That gap opening up to over a second. Mitch Bonaventura now hauling behind Ian Baker. Take a quick look at what happened to Mauricio Marquez Ramos here. Going into the S's, I wonder if he caught a little bit too much rotation here on the final corner. Yep, overcooked that acceleration. Oh, keeps it out of the wall, though. But almost close opportunities there for that car, but keeps it out of harm's way of himself or anybody else. Luke Plaisance had just gotten around Chris Wells a little while ago, but I just saw him lose about a couple seconds there. I'm curious what happened with that one. Joe Evers, Sean Roberts still sitting about a second away from each other in our GT4 class. Tyler Roberts retiring the car after that incident early on. Once again sees Sean Roberts at the head of the field. The gap, however, much closer this time between those two cars, at least for the moment. Ian Baker, Mitch Bonaventura getting the pass done, I believe, as Ian has another moment going into the S's.
Yeah, Matt Markey's really caught up on the back of Ian there, and he's dropped Landon a little bit, but I think that was more Ian falling back to Matt than Matt pulling away there. These guys just can't escape each other. I feel like we've been watching them for about 10 laps now.
I feel like we have. I feel like the other battles on track have kind of simmered down. And
like Dan Griffin's pulled almost a 9-second gap down over Nick Maynard in second. Just running away with this one.
Yeah. Luke's heading consistent 115.919s, 2 1s, low 115s versus the 116s of the rest of the top 4, who have set a pretty sizable gap to Nick Terrell, and who's kind of a little bit on his own, and then the rest of the field that we've been kind of following with Patrick Cantrell, the sharp end of that stick, followed by Mitch Bonaventura, Ian Baker, all those drivers in the back half of GT3 Pro. And the battle I was looking at in the beginning of GT3 AM brought to an unceremonious conclusion as Luke Plaisance unfortunately had the spin early on. So the racing action seems to be floating around Ian Baker and Matt Markley.
I think that will be where probably most of our action is for the rest of the race too, looking around here. Unless Jesse can get further on the back of Nate. As Matt's setting something up. Matt's sniffing.
Yep.
And Matt Markley is not going to hang around if he gets an opportunity.
We've seen him make some pretty fantastic passes over the course of this. We'll see if he'll make some more as Ian Baker continues to kind of remain within his sights. Pass for overall position, Wesley Woods getting around Joe Evers and Sean Roberts here likely. Wesley ending up a little bit behind them as a result of, I believe, some drive-throughs. Mauricio getting another off track there in the background of the shot. Luke Plaisance, Chris Wells back into a fight. Battle for the bottom podium of GT3 AM.
Luke's getting up on him. Luke's going to take a peek here. He can get a little bit of a run. He's going to have a better run out of here, but that Porsche can just stomp on the throttle so early to get that power down and get out of there.
Luke's, however, carrying much more speed through that first corner, and I'm going to guess probably that second corner as well. Based on that momentum, just has that setup dialed in to carry speed throughout all of it. He's trying not to hit the rear end of Chris Wells.
Makes him defend. This might set him up better for this straightaway, but that's Porsche once again is just going to... It can just launch off the corner, so he is a little bit closer this time.
Yeah, he's probably going to get a little bit of the draft based on the timing. He's a little under 2/10 away from him. So my guess is we'll see him make the look here unless Chris goes defensive into the S's. There's a look.
There it is.
Late on the brakes.
Bold, strong, decisive move. Just let him know that he was going to be going it there, so you better give me room. That was good. He showed the nose, and I mean, you see guys kind of half commit, and that's what you don't want to ever see is the half move. So good strong move from Luke to get up to third in the GT3 AM class there.
At 10 seconds to get up to Marcus Osborne now. About 10 seconds to get up to Marcus. I think it'll be close if he's able to do it. He's lapping a little faster than Marcus is, but I don't know that's quite going to be enough on its own. Matt Markley, however, now being hounded by Landon Orr as the three of them continue to kind of be I wouldn't say stuck, but definitely lapping at Ian Baker's pace at the moment.
I can only imagine they're screaming, thinking that they probably have more pace if they can just get by him. But Ian's got just enough pace to make that too difficult for him.
Nicholas Maynard goes off track. Let's take a look here. Oh, no. Just catches too much grass. Oh, that looks
Ooh, he clipped the wall pretty hard there, too.
Yeah. That front tire looks like it's a little upset. Not terribly, thankfully, but he's going to lose second to Nate Sides. So that'll bring that fight back into contention, I believe. Yes, within 0.7 of a second between Nicholas Maynard and Nate Sides. Jesse Olson about a second behind both of these drivers. Nate Sides is going to get stopped up by traffic, which will make it a hard one for them. 3 wide. As Nicholas Maynard's licking the look. He'll, however, end up staying behind Nate for the moment as both Joe and Sean Roberts get out of the way. And now Nicholas Maynard, I think, is pushing pretty hard to get back around Nate Sides.
But they keep fighting. You see Jesse Olson just sitting there. He's just waiting for the moment for one of them to make a move. It's a little bit too strong, and I think Nick Terrell's only a couple seconds back from them there too. So this could shape up to end up being a pretty hefty fight for the final 2 podium spots.
I think that will likely be the case, depending on how these last 5 minutes shake down. Jesse Olson now sitting about a second behind both of them. And like you said, you can see Nick Terrell hop into these shots for the briefest of moments as he's only a couple seconds behind Jesse, excuse me. So I want to kind of see if I can see both of them from Jesse's on board. I know we hopped on the board with him a moment ago. I want to see if that's still possible. You can see both those drivers up ahead. So we'll continue to watch from this position as these two are trying to run off with it. Looked like a slow exit out of the corner for Nate. We'll have to see.
Defend here.
Yeah, we'll see. Nate plays the defensive move or not. Seems like it.
Just enough to make Nick think about it. He's going to try to stab his nose. Nate slams the door shut on him. Probably about... Ooh. They might get 3 more laps out of here.
Okay.
So Nate's going to have to defend for his life over the next about 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's an off track
runs
for...
a little bit wide there.
Further back, the battle between Ian Baker and Matt Markley reaching a hot point as well. You see drivers still sitting about this far away from each other. Wanted to see if the look was going to be made into this turn number 1. The answer is no. Now less than a second between Nicholas Maynard and Jesse Olson. You can see it there between all of them. Landon Orr has the look around Matt in the background of all this, but doesn't choose to keep it. Oh. Nicholas Maynard still trying to make the look into the S's.
Landon just came on the radio apologizing. I'm worried something may have happened there.
I saw my event tower that I have on my end to come up. I will take a quick look at it here in a moment. I want to kind of follow along with this battle for the position. Oh, Nate Sides has a terrible exit out of turn number 2, which is going to give him the position back to Nicholas Maynard. We'll see if Nick is able to keep that position over Nate Sides for the last couple of laps. I think that's the end of our battle for these two positions. I may be wrong. Take a quick jump back, look at what happened with Matt Markley, Landon Orr. Oh, lunge in from Landon. He jumps over the curb and ends up slamming into the side of Matt Markley because of that curbing. And I think that's enough to damage that car to where it needs to be towed. You can see that back right tire just bumping up and down. That is going to be the white flag this time out for these drivers, as well as Dan Griffin a hefty ways ahead. Chris Kraus driving back into this. It's going to bisect both Nate Sides and Jesse Olson. Kevin, is there anything that you could do if you were in Landon's shoes in that moment? I know we're looking at this battle between these drivers, but I'm curious.
Once you commit to going up the inside a little bit too late there with how big that curb is, you're by the time you touch the brakes, you've already made up your mind of what the line you're going to take is, and the mistake isn't in the braking. The mistake comes at the decision point there. Unfortunately for Landon, it was just a little bit too far back, and like I said, they were itching to get by each other, and he made the lunge and unfortunately clipped that curb a little bit heavily. He's still going to come through and hold on to the GT3 AM win here. But that is quite unfortunate. Or that's the white flag.
Yeah.
I am mistaken. He's still got to go another lap.
Well,
and he's fighting a damaged car.
He does still have to go another lap. Meanwhile, Mitch Buenaventura as well as Patrick Cantrell looking to battle out for the final couple spots here. Patrick in P6, Mitch Buenaventura trying to look for the look over, but he will maintain P7. So we are coming to a close here. Landon Orr maintaining that P1 lead he inherited after the spin from Luc Plaisance. Sean Roberts, Joe Evers finishing 0.3 apart from each other after 30 minutes of racing as two GT4s trying to avoid contact with parts of the GT3 field. Adam Dahl, the last finisher of the night. We'll go over some results here, I believe. Yeah, we'll do that. GT3 Pro, with our results, we'll see Dan Griffin take home the win 20 seconds ahead of Nicholas Maynard. Commanding drive from Dan Griffin for this one.
Yeah, obviously helped out a little bit there from Nick's issues that he had, but still fought back to a good P2 for Maynard there.
Absolutely. Nicholas Maynard coming home P2. A fantastic fight with Nate Sides for those second and third positions on the podium. Those two only were chased home by Jesse Olson and Nick Terrell, who were only a second apart from each other as well, rounding out that top 5. Patrick Cantrell, Mitch Buenaventura come home P6 and P7, but Mitch was looking for that late race lunge to make that the other way around. Unfortunately, he was not successful. Ian Baker comes home P8. Mauricio Marquez Ramos P9. Is gonna come home P9. Matt Markley is going to end 2 laps down after that race contact with Landon Orr. Kevin Medina, Justin Hall, 2 drivers that do not finish the race. I don't believe Justin Hall even started the race, if I remember correctly. Or no, but he did, sorry. But about 1 lap in. So, GT3 AM, Kevin Hayes, how are they doing?
The GT3 Amfield, Landon Orr takes home P1, followed by Marcus Osborne and Luke Plaisance. Luke Plaisance wraps up a double podium for him tonight. Chris Wells comes home P4, Adam Dahl P5, Chris Kraus P6, and Wesley Woods comes home P7.
Fantastic finishes there. GT4 Pro as well as GT4 AM. Joe Evers is going to home technically P2 overall, but P1 in GT4 Pro. He comes home just behind Sean Roberts, who was our one GT4 AM finisher. Those two only separated by 0.3 between each other and overall. So a fantastic drive from both of them. A consistent one at that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the GT4 guys out fine tonight. Unfortunate for Tyler Roberts here at Mosport having a couple incidents take him out of the race from a good pole position. Unfortunately, without the finish, he won't get the points. So doesn't come home P3, comes home P0 tonight.
Yeah.
Here at Mosport. So we'll be interested to see how the standings look after this evening.
Certainly. So, any interviews that we wish to pull in, or final thoughts from you, Kevin?
We have two. Do you want to pull them in together?
Let's do it. Let's pull them in together.
Hey, we're gonna get Landon Orr and Nate Sides.
Landon, Nate, welcome
sir.
to the broadcast booth.
Hello.
Fantastic podiums from both of you. A win for you tonight in class, Landon.
Win for me, man. I'll take that. I will take that.
That's my partner.
Landon, we gotta ask what happened.
Dude, I'm literally messaging Matt right now. I'm literally typing him a message. No, I feel
Now-
really bad. It was such a good race with him.
Yeah, this is the third time I believe this year that your Porsche has gotten airborne.
Thank you. Thank you for
Had
that.
you thought about starting an airline around this point in time?
Man, that feeling when, like, in the cockpit view, all you see is sky is such a depressing feeling.
Yeah,
What amazes me is I didn't take
it's
any
not
damage
great.
from that. No.
I
No, it's not.
disagree. It sure looked like you took some damage.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely saw.
Let me see here. Oh, yeah. Yes, I did. You
Yeah, you
I
did.
stand corrected on
Yeah.
that one.
I was thinking there was going to be some suspension damage, and that Marcus was going to put on a little bit of a late fight against you, which would have been fun to see.
That's all I was gunning for. That's why I kind of felt bad. Is that early on I knew I had some speed on Matt, so I kept going side by side with a little bit. But I'm like, as long as I beat Marcus, that's all I was shooting for. So I just tucked in behind him and was keeping up with him. But then just that side of me, when I saw Matt lose it a little bit in turn, I shouldn't have gone for it, but I did. But it's what it is.
I didn't chastise you too hard, though it was one of the first times of the evening you did see an apex. You may have gone over it, but you did manage to make it there. Nate, P3 in the GT3 Pro. Talk us through your race.
Oh, I love Mosport. It's one of my. It's so flowy and so nice. If it wasn't quite as hot, it would have been a little bit better because managing tires was kind of big. Everybody was. I think my left front was melted by the end of the race. And it just seemed like between me and Nick, it was who could make the least amount of mistakes to get second.
Yeah, Maynard hit the wall. Nick, he got. I don't know if you saw his incident. He went into the wall pretty hard. I was surprised to see him fight back as hard as he did. Once again, our podium is all front engine cars. Is there something to this front engine domination that I keep seeing throughout the service?
I don't know. I kind of think there is. With this new tire model, they just feel way better, in my opinion. And I didn't pick a car that I thought was going to be the meta. I just wanted to do a different car that I had been previously. That's why I ended up with a Mercedes.
Good looking Mercedes. Reminds me of
Thank you.
Sherbert.
Yeah, right.
Ben, any questions for the boys?
You covered a lot of the big ones, such as Landon's ability to find an apex. I'm super curious how, but no, on a very real note, a fantastic drive from both, especially the fight with you and Nick at the end there. Nate Sides, I was really hoping you would be able to keep defending from him, but the turn 2 decided otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. I just got out in the marbles, and I was just glad I kept it out of the wall, honestly.
Definitely looked like it could have gone a lot worse than it did, and you wrangled that car up pretty quickly. So, were you expecting more of a fight from Jesse throughout that race?
I was. I thought maybe if I pushed him a little bit, his tires would kind of give up, and it seems like that's what happened. The front engine cars, and especially that double right-hander over the hill.
Yeah.
It just eats up the left front. And it seems like where he was fast, I was slow, and where I was fast, he was slow. So it's kind of worked out that way.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Landon, are you excited about winning tonight?
That's all I got. Oh,
Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, are you excited about winning tonight? I know we talked about it a little bit, but
I'm very excited about it. I've been with our break, and I've been out for work, traveling. It's almost been like a month, so it was rusty, and that was a really terrible first race. So I am over the moon to cap it off with this one. That felt very, very good.
fantastic. Well,
Landon, can you apologize to Fenn for coding the website in such a way that made him present the standings incorrectly?
Wait, what? What did I do wrong?
how did
I'd
you
like you
didn't
to
do
apologize.
anything wrong, Landon? Apparently, my web browser likes to cache pages, so that way when I even though it looks like it's loading
yes.
a page, it doesn't actually load the fucking page, and it loads the cache page, so I end up having the wrong
That's
points.
on me.
Oh, so it isn't on me? Okay, cool.
See, Fenn?
That's good
It
to
is
know.
Landon's fault.
'cause- well, okay, so I don't want to get too technical, but I use Cloudflare for the CDN, and I'm trying to figure out the cache headers, and I've been worried about caching. So that's good to know. I will take a look at that.
Yep.
If you FYI hit Control-Shift-R going forward, that will clear your cache on a refresh.
Sweet.
But I will figure that out.
Well,
I was joking.
Thank you.
Actually, so it's
Yeah.
funny that it did end up actually being Landon's fault.
Well, I'm updating the standings right now, so at least you'll have the new
Beautiful.
ones there.
where are we going next week? I'm asking both.
Road America.
Road America. Oh,
Road America for the
fantastic.
finale.
Is it
90
going to be
minutes.
pouring down rain like it was? No.
It will be a clear race. It will be
Okay.
a clear race. However,
Mhm.
there is a significantly after calls from the league,
Yep.
and the safety car driver. We have managed to pull the union back from their strike,
Good.
and there is a much higher percentage chance of a safety car at some point next week.
Kevin, if you don't get the safety car driver back in, I'll just drive the safety car. We're in
We're in
With love.
negotiations with some of the
Okay.
drivers themselves. We've sorted it with the safety car drivers union. We
Okay.
managed to end the strike. But now we're struggling to find. They're obviously in high demand on iRacing with the amount of incidents that we typically see. So we're trying to get one for next week. So I'd say there's a 80% chance we find one for next week. Wink, wink.
that sounds
Oh boy.
Like it.
very coded, like it's going to be over 80%, but we'll leave that up to deliberation.
I think that's it.
Sick. Yeah, I think so. So,
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. You do a great job.
Yep.
thank you all. All right. Final thoughts before we close this out, if you got any.
Love these tracks. Excited for Road America. Let's do a championship standings rundown before the race because there could be some implications during the race, and I want to be
Yes.
aware of them going in. So let's review those together.
Let's see if I can pull them
I'm
up.
excited to see kind of after the second drop week is added in there, which it may have actually been added in after week 6. And Dan and Nick kind of splitting the top tonight. You know, this could come down to someone having one bad corner and not getting the safety bonus that night from moving the standings around. So real excited to see how it all shapes up next week.
Let's see if I can do this correctly. Nope. Nope, I can't. There we go. All right. Broadcast version of the standings.
These have
Starting
been
off-
updated.
These have been updated. These are up-to-date standings.
These have been updated.
All right, we'll start with GT3 Pro. We're kicking off Nicholas Maynard having 608 points. Dan Griffin at 597 after that. So a 11-point difference between these two drivers.
11 points.
So a solid finish from either of them. What's the math there?
Well, see, and this is it. To me, Nick has more wiggle room. Obviously, he has the points lead, but also he has 7 wins.
Mm-hmm.
So his drop, right? If he has a bad week next week and it becomes a drop for him, his replacement week might be better than Dan's, or Dan's could be better than Nick's. It kind of gets. We're definitely going to be reviewing these tables after the race next week, especially if some chaos happens. So it all depends on, and this is where even with drop weeks, consistency really, really matters. We have a tight points. We give out points at a pretty tight spread here in OMEC, so consistency is how you beat your competition.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff is my like filler words for the week. I'm learning. I'm realizing as I'm talking with you about it right now. But I think that'll be a close battle to follow on track next week, as well as Jesse Olson and Nick Terrell, especially given the drop weeks available, I believe, for Nick over Jesse. I think might be interesting there. Even though, I don't know, 6 one half dozen the other. It could be interesting to see between those two drivers. 584 points to 567. Patrick Cantrell rounding out top 5 with 547. Nate Sides, Matt Markley, Michael Doyen. The battle between battle between Matthew Markley as well as Michael Doyen is another one to keep an eye on. I think Matthew has more wiggle room again with those drop weeks. Just racing, having 11 races to Michael Doyen's 7 will be, I think, a huge park there. Andre Saba and Tony Caicedo rounding out the top 10. Tony Caicedo not here tonight, so another solid drop week, I believe, for him. One of a few, if I remember correctly. So
we'll see how it all shakes out. It's going to be there's a lot of movement still to be had going into next week.
Certainly. And Justin Hall, Marisa Marquez, Ramos, William Lemaster, Ian Baker, Kelvin Collado, Mitch Bonaventura, Kevin Medina, Malcolm Coates, Jason Larson, John Schwartz, and Sergey Perok are your 21 drivers in GT3 Pro, currently sitting on that on those championship standings. Kevin Hayes, the GT3M championship standings, I think are also going to have some interesting movement, especially between Chris Kraus and Marcus Osborne in their legally distinct fight in between the team members for the other 2 spots on the podium, besides Luc Plaisant's commanding lead after 11 races.
Absolutely. Luke has definitely built himself a little bit of a buffer here, and he's going to be feeling real nice going into Road America next week. Chris Kraus, Marcus Osborne, only 3 points between them. Teammates on track, definitely competitors here on the points table.
Did you ever... sorry, I was going to ask, did you ever clear out the allegations between their Checkers Directors team and yours?
All questions are directed to my lawyer at this point in time still.
Got it. Okay. So the answer is no.
So Chris Wells in P4, about 23 points back from Marcus Osborne. So Chris Kraus and Marcus Osborne have a bit of a buffer there. So if they end up on track, you'll see some fists thrown, I think, to try to get that last spot, or the runner-up spot there in the GT3 AM division. Rote's not out tonight. Definitely still right. He's got a couple drop weeks that have some big numbers. Now he's got a 0 on one of them. So he's someone who you could see really shoot up the order with a good finish next week, just due to the replacement of a 0 on his board or a low number on his board. Khalil McIntyre wasn't out there tonight. He's at 403 points. Landon Orr also has a few drop weeks that are some 0s. So expect to see some big movement from some of these guys who haven't been able to make it out as a...
Didn't he just get a win and therefore a podium?
He did.
Oh, they probably don't. I
Landon, if
mean,
you're-
I'm guessing they only do overall wins and podiums.
I think that might be correct. It might just be
That
showing
makes
the
sense.
overall wins. Um,
Landon, if you're watching,
So that
we should get it fixed. Anyway,
yeah, just code that in. So you see, he's only raced eight races, and that includes sprints. So he's got some zeros that he can replace with a good score. So we'll kind of see how this shakes out next week. It really depends on who's showing up. We're hoping for a strong field to finish the season. Road America is always one of those races that just turns out numbers. So expect to see
It's a
a
good
busy grid
track.
next week.
yes, certainly. Rest of the grid there, championship standards all on the screen there. We'll dive into GT4 Pro, which I'll talk about just real quick, and then I'll give you the fun job of doing GT4 AM. Tyler Roberts, who had one solid finish in, I believe it was P3, and then did not finish for the second race tonight. We'll put him at 596 points. Just a great show of consistency, like you've been talking about, Kevin. For that driver across the season. I think he has that championship standing pretty well and truly locked in. Sean Harvey, Joe Evers. Why is he tied for
Yeah, I'm not
first?
sure. Joe Evers
Okay.
is second, only
Yes.
24 points back. So you never know.
It's true, yeah. I think I think Tyler has a couple more solid finishes to leave as wiggle room than I think Joe might. But it's very possible if Joe pulls out another win or something like that, it could see that point total, that margin at least close from that 20-point gap. And then Gary Yee, as well as Sean Harvey, and truly Sean Harvey is the third member on the podium there, as well as Gary Yee in fourth. If Gary Yee, I think, has another great race there at Road America next week, we see him dethrone Sean Harvey for that third spot on the Pro GT4 standings. Devin Adams, who I don't think we saw tonight either, currently sitting with 294 points, which feels low to me, but maybe with how he's finished in some of those, it's very possible. And then Guillermo Silatozo, sitting in fifth. So, last, certainly not least, GT4M, Kevin Hayes, lead us off.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't need to be said. Sean Roberts is winning this championship. He is holding, 260 points above Jaden Rissard right now. I don't think there's anything that Jaden can do, even if he is there next week. Sean Roberts could not show up, and I think he still takes home the win in this GT4 AM division. But Jaden Rissard and Kyle Orvetz, real close battle there. Jaden Rissard with the extra week compared to Kyle Orvetz, and Orvetz is still right there, so you never know what's going to happen there. Connor Smith, Jordan Oliver round out your top five. Solomon Landauer, Ken Duvall, Jordan Yokobonis, Colin Olson, and Timothy Schaefer. I think Timothy Schaefer had a real life injury earlier this season, so he's been out for a little bit. I believe he broke his collarbone.
I believe so.
So we hope to see him healed up and ready to go for season 12, along with some of these other GT4 drivers. We hope to see him out there in some GT3 or LMP2 machinery next season.
Absolutely. So those are the point standings. That's going to be, I think, the battles to keep an eye out on track next week. We go racing at Road America. Are you excited, Kevin?
I'm incredibly excited for Road America. It's such a good track, and we're finally going to get it in the dry, so the guys will be able to. It might be a little bit of a fuel save, but it shouldn't be too much there. We'll see. There's been some discussion potentially about maybe giving them some extra fuel. We'll look at the balance of performance between the vehicles, run our calculations for the OMEC BOP, and figure that one out. But very excited to see what happens next week at Road America. It's definitely a track that can throw up some unique results and throw up a little bit of chaos, which is always fun to see. Kind of invites mistakes in some spots. So excited to see what the drivers get up to next week.
Likewise, I have a huge soft spot for Road America, just because the Road America 500, as well as a few other things. It's one of my favorite tracks on sim racing, one of my favorite tracks in real life, and one I can never get enough of. So anytime I get to be there in any capacity, I'm always thrilled. So I think it's a great way to round out our season of bangers, as it were. of just great tracks, I feel like, the whole way down. And next season, I think, will be an interesting one as we transition from GT4s to LMP2s as our supplemental class. But we'll have to see when we get there. First, we got the finale at Road America next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when open qualifying starts. Practice the hour prior, so 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. There we go. For all you people that are on the U.S., and then you can extrapolate your own time zones if you live outside of those fantastic worlds. But if you want to get in on the action, easiest way to go do that is going to be OMECsimracing.com. If I can hit the buttons, there we go. There on the track, once again, all the race information you saw tonight. And we will see you next week when we go to Road America. I've been Fettuccini. Alongside the booth with me has been Kevin Hayes tonight. And we will see you all in 7 days for the season's finale of Season 11 at Road America. Have a good night, everybody.